It's Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
It's colder.
6:06 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name's Glenn Woods. Friday. Glad you made it. Thanks for joining me. All right, 888-97-WOODS, the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. I always give you open phones every day of the week. Friday, it's the entire program. So at any point, you can just jump in and interrupt me. That's absolutely fine. I will have at 6:45 a weather update for you, an extended update like I do every day, but from Don Day. And pay attention to that at 6:45 because weather-wise, a lot happens this weekend. At 7:45, he joins me live. And I've actually come across quite a few people who didn't know this was coming. So let me update you. You probably heard it in this forecast on your local radio station. But it definitely is going to get really windy and for some places really wet on Saturday. Sunday, Monday is the worst of it. Now, what you get is going to depend on where you are and also exactly what the system does. And that's still the unknown. Now, I do have a detailed weather forecast for you on the Wake Up Wyoming site, and Ms. Mary will alert that out at some point, where you can see all the details of this. It's a low-pressure system that's going to move up through the Dakotas. Exactly where it moves up will depend on whether you're going to get a lot of rain or a lot of snow and how much. Some people might get buried in the white stuff. Other people just get rained on a lot. Either way, there's going to be a ton of wind with this thing. I mean, an insane amount of wind. So keep all of that in mind because there's still a few unknowns and variables in this. And that will, I had to, pardon me, say. Miss Mary sent me a note here. I just want to read it to you because these are the kind of fun notes. Mary, I bet you never thought you would type something like this. I had to manually launch the chicken. I just tossing that out. Anyway, so we'll keep you up to date. But, yeah, that story is about the weather is going to change a little bit as we get into the weekend because there's a few variables and unknowns in that. All right. Get a load of this headline. I saved it just for you, just for today. The cult of climate change worries about so many different things. And it's always getting worse. And now they're worried about dirt. So apparently we have to ban dirt. Headlines: Australians are facing a new climate criminal, dirt. Soil CO2 emissions are threatening to ruin the country's net zero goals. Okay, so we get rid of dirt and we get rid of CO2. I guess in order to save ourselves from a climate crisis, we just need to leave the planet because we have CO2 and dirt and all of that's necessary for life. Here's what the story says. A study published by Nature Portfolio Journal warns that Australia's soil is becoming net carbon emitter and threatens to ruin the country's zero emission goals. Okay, here again, CO2 is good for the planet and necessary. Without it, this is a dead planet. So it's okay if soil if it has carbon in it, but if it's releasing CO2, that's a good thing too. Quote, they claim that over the next 80 years, Australian soil will release up to 100 megatons of CO2 into the atmosphere. There you have it. Dirt is now a major threat to the future of the planet. I'm reading this as a quote, by the way. This is from Sky News. Dirt is now a major threat to the future of the planet. Quote, I reckon some greenie counselor is going to make you concrete everything now that they know that dirt is a climate criminal. That's a quote, but that's also sarcasm. They're referring to an article published in The Guardian yesterday about an article that was published on March 26, 2024. A warming climate will make Australia's soil a net emitter of CO2. Again, they treat CO2 as if it's a bad thing, not a good thing. The study's author, who is Professor Rossell is the name, said concerning findings showed the substantial threat soil carbon loses from the soil. Australia's emissions targets for CO2 cannot be reached. Quote, if Australia wants to achieve emission targets, that's a significant amount of emissions we're not accounting for. Quote, the climate change problem is so large and so wicked that soil is not going to solve the problem, but it can play soil carbon losses. As if the whole affair wasn't peculiar enough, the study says they're well documented with uncertainty in their modeling. So after all of this, they say, but we're kind of uncertain about all of this. The research work was funded by the Australian government through the Australian Research Council. In other words, tax collecting, hardworking, productive people that are in Australia paid for this kind of research. Again, here's study, carbon footprint, homegrown food, 5 times greater. This is where the cult of climate change told you that it would be better if you grew your food at home. Be better for the planet if you grew your food at home. Then comes this story, says, homegrown is bad for the planet. Yeah, because, again, your carbon footprint, homegrown gardens is... So which is it? Is it better to grow your food at home, better for the planet? Or is it better for you to do it the industrial way on big mega farms? How are we supposed to do this? And what are we supposed to do now that soil is bad? So here's somebody put this up on, I still say Twitter, it's X now. We've already seen that homegrown is bad for the planet. Now soil is bad. Does it mess with their agenda for net zero? I'd say this, and this is an actual picture from a story that was on an Australian news service. It says, Australians are now facing the new climate criminal soil. All right. So now you have to worry about dirt. That's the next thing. What I'm wondering about is when are they going to ban clouds? The number one greenhouse gas is actually water vapor and clouds. So CO2 is one of the least, it's a trace gas that barely exists in the atmosphere, and it actually doesn't trap that much heat. But that's what we're supposed to be worried about. The number one greenhouse gas is water vapor, clouds. So the only real way to solve this, I guess, is just to ban clouds. I mean, we're banning everything else at this point. CO2 is now considered a pollutant. Dirt emits CO2. Therefore, dirt is bad. I don't know how you're supposed to grow stuff if you're not allowed to use dirt or CO2. Because without dirt and without CO2 and without water vapor, we're not growing anything. So, here's my new plan. Just tell me what you think. I think this is what we should do from here on out. Let's just start making plans to leave Earth altogether. Because no matter what happens, Earth is going through climate change. I mean, it always has, right? But apparently the only way to stop it and save the human race is to not be here. So we're going to have to create a climate-controlled ship and just go somewhere else. Because no matter what we do, the climate on Earth just continues to change. And now, dirt is an evil culprit. Let's say, Cheesehead from Judah. That damn nature. We should outlaw nature. See, that's probably a good idea, Cheesehead. 6:15. Let's wake up, Wyoming.
Local and mobile across Wyoming and beyond with the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. This is AM 1030 K2 Radio.
22 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. So 888-97 Woods is the phone number. That's 888-97 WOODS. You can talk about what I'm talking about or change the subject. Here's a big shocker for you. I read this headline. It's from a website which I like to follow called Study Finds. And all they do is go out looking for studies, sometimes oddball studies, which is kind of fun, which is why I follow them. tax the rich, they'll just leave. Data shows. Really? Gosh, so if you really overtax rich people, see, rich people are rich because they're smart with money. Poor people are poor because they're dumb with money. It's just really that simple. It's not a matter of social justice or anything like that. It's been shown many times over, if you take a bunch of money, and this has been done to prove it, go to a poor person and give them a bunch of money. Let them win the lottery. And they're poor again in no time at all because they don't know what to do with money. But if you take a rich person, well, take all of his money away. Leave him with nothing. Come back in a few years. He's rich again. Why? Because he knows how to make money and knows what to do with it once he has it. Rich is a matter of behavior. So people with good behavior get rich and stay rich. And they're smart enough to know that if they're being overtaxed, they should leave. So here's the story. Riverside, California. Taxes are just one topic all Americans probably find common ground on. Nobody likes them. However, some people have the ability to do something about it. Researchers from UC Riverside looked at how state income taxes have affected Americans for more than a century. The findings are simple. When states raise taxes, Americans leave, and they go to places where taxes are lower. Gosh, California. Gee, Willikers, Illinois. Hey, New York, get a clue. It says you may have seen stories about recent mass exodus of Americans from high-tax states like New York, California, to greener pastures, Florida, Texas. According to the new study published in the American Economic Journal, Economic Policy, this is not a modern a trend. Golly gosh. Now, okay, so someone decided to do a study about it, but we already knew this, right? All right, reading on. It turns out Americans have been moving to keep their wealth ever since the introduction of income taxes. Again, gosh, golly gee willikers, who would have thought? Well, I guess some people don't think because those in Democrat states never get it. In fact, those on the federal level that overtax the rich, and the rich pack up and leave the country. And they still don't get it. And then they blame those rich people, well, you're just not a patriot. Don't tax the snot out of them and they'll stay, okay? It's that simple. And by the way, their money is theirs. They have a right to it. As long as they earned it honestly, it's their money. It's not the people's money. It's not selfish of them to keep what they worked hard and earned. That's okay. Story says, ironically, state governments started implementing income taxes in an effort to redistribute wealth. States would tax residents, then in theory, use that revenue to benefit the poorest parts of the population, essentially leaving the income playing field, or leveling, I should have said leaving, leveling the income playing field. However, researchers found that the plan backfires. Historically, raising income taxes doesn't bring in the revenue states hope for. Americans with means just move so they can keep their standard of living. Well, once again, and this is something I've been saying for, well, as long as I've been a radio show host, with decades now, I've been saying this. Every time government, and we'll take local government in this case, state government, says, well, we're going to raise taxes, and we're going to get this much money if we raise taxes. And they raise the taxes, and they don't get that much money, and they're confused as to why. Here's one of the reasons why. Specifically, researchers examine state tax policies from 1900 to 2010. That's a good long time. They found that states adopting income taxes increased revenue per capita by 12 to 17%. However, this increase didn't match up with the increases of total revenue for the government. Personal income tax means tax upon labor and income, first introduced for the purpose of, again, a redistribution of wealth. According to Hugo Antonio, an economist with UC Riverside, a university press release, quote, the idea was to provide services to the poor as parts of the population and reduce inequality. between residents. Well, okay. Then I like this next line here. When the going gets tough, the rich get going. The explanation, a simple one, says this economist. People with higher incomes have the ability to be more mobile. This doesn't just mean that they can go to nice places on vacation. It means they can pick up and move everything. The researchers add that this is the ability to move places where there's little or no state income taxes. In Europe, people have less ability to avoid crushing income tax because it's all across Europe. In America, the study finds that, well, because we have a different kind of a system with our different states. So, yeah, it's much easier just to pack up and go to a state where they don't charge as much income tax-wise. You get to keep more of what you earn. That's one of the reasons I like living in Wyoming. I made the mistake of moving to a place that had a state income tax and instantly regretted it and said I'd never do it again, and I'm never going to do it again. I won't live in a state that has a state income tax. Starry, Colorado. Coming up on 6:30, local news coming your way right after local news. Pay attention to that weather forecast. It's important. You and I get back into it again. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Listen to Glenn Woods anywhere you roam with the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. This is AM 1030 K2 Radio.
Time is 6:36. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It's a Friday, and I'm glad you made it. Got that weather forecast. You heard it on your local radio station, but hang on. 6:45, Don Day gives you an update. It is going to be impactful, but there's a lot of question marks. So, especially if you have livestock, pay attention to this weekend's weather forecast. It really is important. Now, if you're just joining me, I'm going to wrap something up. I was going to change the subject, but now there's an extra line on this story. Somebody did a study at a university, started in the year 1900 and going forward. When states, and even countries, tax the rich too much, what do the rich do? They move. They leave. So just focusing here on the United States, when a state taxes way too much for a rich person, and rich people are rich for a good reason. They're rich because they know what to do with money. They know how to make it. They know how to keep it. Poor people are poor because they don't know that. It's real simple. So when a rich person is overtaxed, they move. They move their business, and they move themselves, which is why there's a mass exodus from California, Illinois, New York, to name a few, to places like Florida, Texas. Even why here in Wyoming, so many rich people have moved to Wyoming because we don't have a state income tax. So the bottom of this article says, so what should states do about this? Gee, gosh. While reducing income inequality is a noble goal for any state, no, it's not. Researchers say officials should be more mindful of simply spending the tax bill or sending it to the rich to fix the problem. Raising too much might backfire, as the state might lose, well, many wealthy contributors, says the economist. Now, again, income inequality, trying to get rid of it is not a worthy goal unless you're doing it for yourself. If you're looking at your personal situation and you're thinking, I should be doing better than this, well, then what are you going to do about it? You can give yourself a raise anytime you want. It's a lot of work, but you can give yourself a raise anytime you want. Get busy. That's how you solve income inequality. Now, as far as what the states should do, quit spending so much damn money. Back off. You don't need to be doing all of that. And when I mentioned California, New York, Illinois, those are three states which really don't get it. They love their big government. And government is the solution to every single problem out there, which takes a ton of money. Even states that are completely broke, like the three I just mentioned, still have these huge, lofty ideas, and they keep spending more and more. Even our federal government which is deeply broke. I mean, desperately broke. We're in major trouble here. But those currently in government, and I'm blaming both parties for this, and the bureaucracy, it doesn't matter if it's Democrat or Republican, both parties and the bureaucracy still look at this as, well, we need to spend, we have to spend more, we have all of these goals that we have all of these things we need to do, so we need to spend more, and there's the problem. And in order to spend more, not only do they borrow more, but they continually raise taxes. And as they do that, and you keep hearing this from the Biden administration, the rich need to pay their fair share. Well, they already do. The idea that they don't is flat out a lie. But they continue to try to raise taxes, which even sends rich people out of the country. So step one to solve this problem is your government needs to spend, and I don't care if it's city, county, state, federal, and what state you're in, they need to spend a hell of a lot less. Quit looking to government as the solution to every little problem that you have and spend a hell of a lot less. Drastically less. Then they can go ahead and lower the taxes. Now, if you allow rich people to keep more of their money, if the thought is, well, they're greedy. Yes, they are. Actually, they are. And they want to make more money and they want to get richer. In order to do that, in order for a rich person to get richer, they have to hire employees and grow the company. And that means jobs. And that's good for everybody. As the rich get richer, so does everybody else. That's how that works. But the more you take away from the rich man, remember, a rich person, a billionaire, does not have billions of dollars in cash in some vault somewhere. He's worth billions of dollars because, well, that's what the economic impact of his companies produce. Right? In order for him to give up all of his money, he's going to have to close down his companies. And that means a lot of people losing jobs, which is a serious economic impact. So you want rich people to get richer. And so, no, don't tax them to death. And for God's sakes, reduce the size of government. I'm glad somebody did a study here. Unfortunately, I don't think this study's ever really going to get to the people who need to read it. And if they do, they won't take it seriously. All right. Don Day's forecast is coming up next. This is the extended forecast. And this is important, especially for the eastern side of Wyoming. Pay close attention to this if you would, and especially if you're an owner of livestock, because you're going to want to start making preparations. It's 6:42. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Want to talk to Glenn? Call 888-97-WOODS or chat him on the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. This is AM 1030 K2 Radio.
6:48's the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Off we go to talk to Frank Gambino about sports. Frank, since I'm down here in Cheyenne today, of course, I make my usual stop to visit my friends in Chugwater, right? They're having a little bit of a conversation with me about whatever, happens in Chugwater, which, as you can imagine, Frank, is not much, right?
Well, no. But once you're there, I think they have a parade or something, don't they?
No, they usually don't. No.
No? Are you going to run for mayor or something?
It is a... No. The city council, actually the governor expressed concern because the city council of the population of like 150 people is like at each other's throats. So even the governor was concerned about that. Oh, okay. And it's the only town I know where, while I was having lunch there at the soda fountain, a guy in a pickup truck stops in the middle of the road, and a friend of his walks over, and they just carry on a conversation.
In the middle of the road.
That's Chugwater for you. Except for, yes, but there's nobody on the road, so it's downtown. Except for the day last spring, when the naked guy was walking around town.
Oh, and even before that,
yes,
the guy who had shoe polish on his face that smashed his car into the gas station.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that one. One gas station in a long distance, and some guy decides to blow it up. But no, so they're telling me the story, and I'm like, why haven't you guys told me this story before? So what happened was somebody showed up and decided, now they call him a streaker, but I looked it up. I looked up the definition of streaker. That's the guy who goes running around in public to get attention. This guy wasn't running. He was more like a nudist.
And
he was just walking around town in the buff in the springtime. I mean, it's springtime. The sun's finally out. He wants to get tan, right? So he's just walking around Chugwater, Wyoming, nude.
Why?
Yes?
Why?
Okay, I don't know. But now that goes back to what I always say about naked people. It's never the person you want to see naked. But anyway, okay. And so here's what gets me, Frank. They call the cops, right? But there's nothing the cop can do about it. Did you know that Wyoming is a nudist state?
No, I did not.
If you want to get naked and go walking around downtown, you go ahead. Not unless you're doing something absolutely vulgar or you're harassing people. Then they can go after you. But just being naked, they can't arrest you for that.
I think last summer I saw a lady riding a bicycle with no top on.
You did.
Yeah, and I think she's been...
I'll get back to that. Yes.
So I guess that's legal to ride a bicycle with no top on.
Yes. I'll explain it to you next. Go with sports.
All right, men's college basketball. The transfer portal strikes again as the Wyoming Cowboys will lose two promising young players. 6'9" forward Cam Manya, who was a freshman last season, will be leaving Laramie. He averaged 7 points and 6 rebounds a game and had a huge upside. Guard Cale Combs was a freshman last year at the guard spot and played in 27 games this past season. As a high school senior, he was the player of the year in the Springfield, Missouri area. Transfer portal has changed college athletics to the max, some for the better, some for the worse, and the Wyoming Cowboy basketball program probably really hasn't benefited from it very much, and that has to change. Also in men's college basketball, the Final Four is tomorrow in Glendale, Arizona. Purdue will take on North Carolina State. Connecticut meets Alabama. The women's Final Four starts tonight in Cleveland. Iowa will play UConn in a much-anticipated game, especially with Iowa superstar Caitlin Clark and UConn superstar Paige Beckers. And South Carolina will take on North Carolina State in the other semifinal. Wyoming Cowboy football team has been cruising along with spring practices. They'll have an open practice tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. at the indoor practice facility. Spring drills continue all month, and the annual spring game for the Pokes will be at Cheyenne East High School on Saturday, April the 27th. High school track and field, Cheyenne East will host a big meet this afternoon. So same thing for Casper Kelly Walsh and Rock Springs and Glen Rock. In girls soccer, Star Valley will be at Kelly Walsh this afternoon. Thunder Basin at Laramie, Cheyenne East at Sheridan, Cheyenne Central at Campbell County, and Jackson will be at Natrona at 6 p.m. And boys soccer, Jackson and Natrona at 4, Campbell County and Cheyenne Central at 6. Laramie will be at Thunder Basin at 6 o'clock, Star Valley and Kelly Walsh at 6, and then Sheridan at Cheyenne East also at 6 o'clock. And in high school softball for the girls, Wheatland will be at Cheyenne East today. Laramie will be traveling to Thunder Basin, and Cheyenne South will be in Gillette to take on Campbell County. And that's it in sports.
So here's the story from a couple of years ago, I think it was. A woman named Heidi was riding around topless on a moped in Casper, Wyoming. Okay. And it did bother some people. So, of course, this goes to court. And a court found that it is absolutely okay. She's not really harassing anyone. She's just topless. And that's okay in Wyoming. There's no law that says she can't do that. So, yes, you did see that in Wyoming.
Okay, well, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, but fine.
I'm okay with it. Yeah.
But again, this goes back to my rule, which I have found to be true everywhere I've gone, Frank. The people who are naked in public are never the people you want to see naked. I'm waiting for that to happen.
I will duly noted.
Okay, thank you. Coming up on, the things you learned on this program. I probably shouldn't have let that out there because now people are going to go, you mean I can be naked in public in Wyoming? God, I just ruined it for everybody. Coming up on local business, news time, weather forecast, Wake Up Wyoming.
Cold.
.06 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It's a Friday, and I'm glad you made it. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. 888-97 Woods, the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. Now, if you heard your forecast on your local radio station from Don Day, 7:45, he's on with me live to discuss all of this because we will have some impactful weather this weekend in Wyoming. And we are going to get something. Now, exactly how it comes together, there's still some question marks about intensity and in what areas. And he'll explain why that is And again, at 7:45 this morning. For those people who have livestock, keep that in mind. Good idea to prepare. And it could be something for some people. Hey, we got a lot of rain, and man, did we get a lot of wind. Other people, it could be a lot of snow with a lot of wind. Donde will talk about 7:45 this morning. I'm actually going to go back to something I was just talking with Frank Gambino about, because I think we need to explore this a little bit more. So I'm in Cheyenne, Wyoming right now, broadcasting at our station KGAB. And as I come down, as I travel around the state, if I'm passing by Chugwater, Wyoming, I have some friends there, and I like to pull in. I have a burger and something else at the Chugwater soda fountain, Wyoming's oldest soda fountain, by the way, and looking great. Some of the best. Try the chocolate malt, anything like that from the. It's just great stuff. And then I go across the street to the Tri-County Mercantile and talk to some people there. Always visit for a little bit, then I head off again. And sometimes I hear some really good stories while I'm there. Now, you can imagine Chugwater. What's the population like? 150 people. Not a whole lot happens in Chugwater. Although their city council meetings have gotten, they're at each other's throats. Even the governor kind of expressed a little concern about that. But in a town that small, not a whole lot happens. And I was telling Frank last hour that while I was eating my burger yesterday, I look out the window and they're in the main street right through town, right smack in the middle of the road. I don't mean on his side of the road. I mean right up the center line. A pickup truck had stopped. And somebody had stepped out in the street and they were carrying on a conversation there. Right in the middle of the road, right in the middle of downtown, which is okay because it's Chugwater. How much traffic goes through there, right? So while I'm at the Mercantile, they're telling me some stories, which my complaint was, how come this is the first time I'm hearing about this? I've never heard about this before. Apparently, now they described this as a streaker. Last spring, perhaps, they said they had a streaker in Chugwater. Well, being the word guy that I am, I had to go look that up. What exactly do you mean by streaker? What is a streaker? Well, if you're thinking Ray Stevens, the streak, yeah. A streaker is a guy or gal who rips off their clothes and runs through a crowd in order to cause disruption and get attention, which they do. And Lord help the poor cop that has to bum tackle that person. But okay, that's what happens. That's a streaker. This person, I think, was more of a nudist. Apparently, this person arrived in Chugwater. It was a nice day. Now, after an entire winter of really cold weather, it was finally a nice spring day. So whoever this was decided just to go ahead and take their clothes off and start walking around town, up and down the streets. Chugwater's a cute little town. If you've never been, next time you're driving by in the interstate, drive down in there. See downtown, kind of zigzag through the neighborhoods. There's not much to it, but what is there is really cute. And this person's just enjoying airing themselves out, if you will, getting some sun, and meandering through the town. Now, again, I had to ask my friends in Chugwater, and you're just now telling me this? Why? How come you didn't tell me that when it happened? I should have known right away. And these are the kind of stories I'm looking for. So, of course, the next question is, well, so what did you do here? I mean, did somebody call the cops? Now, calling the cops in Chugwater means someone's got to come from a long way. It's not like Chugwater has their own police department. So an officer has to arrive from somewhere else, right? Being a small town out in the middle of nowhere. Officer arrives and explains to them after seeing what's going on, there's really nothing I can do. Because in case you didn't know this, technically speaking, I mean on a technical level, Wyoming is a nudist state. Now, yeah, hang on. I probably shouldn't say that. I mean, I'm on several radio stations around the state that this covers not just a good part of Wyoming, but we're heard. The signal leaks into the Dakotas and Nebraska and down into Colorado, especially Colorado. You don't want those people knowing that essentially we're a nudist state. But there, I put it out there. Everybody knows now. In other words, there's nothing a police officer can do. According to Wyoming law, and this has been taken to court, if you want to take your clothes off and just go walking around in the buff through some neighborhoods, go ahead. See, It's illegal if you start acting like a pervert. Now, some people might say, hang on. Isn't just walking around naked like that a pervert? I mean, no. If you're doing things that are really perverted, and yes, they can define that, or you're harassing people, then they'll arrest you. But if you're just minding your own business and walking around in the buff, there's no law against that in Wyoming. And Frank Gambino, during the last sports update, reminded me of a story a couple of years back in Casper, Wyoming. There was a woman who was riding around Casper on her moped, topless. And yes, people complained. And of course, it goes to court, and the judge finds that actually there's no law saying that she can't do that. She's not harming anybody. She's just riding around topless. So there's nothing they can do about it. We don't have any laws against it. Making Wyoming, if you think about it in that sense, making Wyoming a nudist state. Now, again, here's where I've made my mistake. I've said that out loud, and there's people at home right now listening going, And it is getting into springtime. Well, yeah. So if you suddenly see people in your town walking around naked, it's probably my fault because I let everybody know. So you can just go ahead and blame me for that, all right? And as long as you're not bothering anyone, they're allowed to go do that. And this goes back to what I've said, I know, many times, but I'll say it again. It has been my experience in my life that those, and yes, I've seen nudists before. I wasn't, not intentionally, but there they were in all their glory. And yet, you know, it was never anyone I wanted to see naked. And that's why I came up with that line. The people who like to get naked in public are never the people you want to see naked. At least it's never been my experience anyway. If somebody's going to decide to go ahead and take me up on this, Wyoming's a nudist state, can we please have someone good-looking do it for a change? And I would really like that. So after they tell me this story in Chugwater, and this person eventually has gotten a full suntan, and I mean a full suntan, that person leaves. Now, I don't know if they ever went back to Chugwater. Neither do the people in Chugwater. Well, if this person came back, they were wearing clothes, which means they would have to recognize this person's face, which is not what they were looking at the first time he visited, so they're not going to know. And so then I had to ask, what else have you told me about Chugwater? Well, there was a time that guy showed up with a bunch of gravel in the back of his truck, and he thought he was going to get gold out of it. I don't know. Welcome to Wyoming. 7:15. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Oh.
Honestly, he's just happy to be here. Catch Glenn Woods on Wake Up Wyoming. Weekdays at 6 on air, on Alexa, and on the Wake Up Wyoming app.
7:20 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. And thanks to Mandy May in Casper, Kevin in Wheatland, Chet is in Yoder, and Kyle's in Manville, all with their comments on the nudist story. I'm not going to say streaker. In Chugwater, they kept saying they had a streaker in town. But a streaker is one who gets naked and runs through a crowd. A nudist was just somebody who's walking around in the buff, which, again, is not illegal in Wyoming. 888-97-WOODS, the phone number, 888-97-WOODS. You can talk about what I'm talking about, change the subject, fine by me. I came across a story about national gas prices. You notice they're up quite a bit. Yeah, I'm sure you have. They took a dive for a bit, then they went back up again. Now, the president, of course, will take credit when the gas prices drop, but then, of course, he doesn't want to talk about it when the gas prices go back up again. To give a little something off for him, it is springtime. Gas prices spike a little bit. We go through a change in our mixture because we have to use different types of gas for different times of the year. And yes, weather has a lot to do with that. But all right, here's the story. The national gas average for regular topped $3.54 a gallon, more than a 45% increase under Joe Biden, according to AAA. Now, again, I don't blame him, Biden, for the springtime increase, but we're beyond that. And when I just took during that news and information break, I had to take a look at Gas Buddy. And they have a heat map of gas prices around the country. And as always, dear Lord, look at California. Oh, my Lord. I don't know how they can afford to drive there. So, okay, we're not doing bad here in Wyoming compared to California. Gas prices remain high and could go higher, the story says, due to industry and political factors. Biden's economic war on energy independence is a big part of that, by the way. Problems in the Middle East, problems in Ukraine. Quote, and this is a quote from an economist, a number of factors driving oil prices higher. We have the expectation that OPEC is going to own production cuts. There's also been rising tensions in the Middle East that's sending prices higher. Now, I look at this and I think, but that shouldn't affect us here. If we were doing what we could be doing, what we should be doing in America, then those factors abroad wouldn't affect us here. Because we'd be producing enough of our own that if there was a Middle Eastern crisis or we have a war in Ukraine, whatever the case is, so what? Because we're producing our own at home, so we would be stable. Now, that's where I blame the Biden administration. Story says, since gas prices have gone up, and here's a quote again, I had to get this car right here, which is a gas saver for me. I used to have a truck. So this is a person who went to a smaller car. And they're also talking to someone who lives in California. I had to go get a smaller car. Why not get an electric vehicle? Because that's not cheaper. Not just to purchase the vehicle, but the cost of electricity, especially in California, is not cheaper. Quote, I just don't see it going down, according to Jay Young, CEO of King Operations Corporation, told NBC News 5 in Dallas. So if you want to drive farther this summer, be prepared to pay more. A whole lot more. Here's a story I have from RNC Research. Nationwide gas prices for regular nationwide average, $3.54 a gallon, up 20 cents in the last month. And up 50% since Biden took office. Now, here's another one of those things where you got to watch how they play with the numbers on something like this. Because the Biden administration, when prices go down, will say, see, gas prices went down. Well, they did, but they're still a lot higher than they were before. Kind of like inflation. Things are still inflating in general across the country. Inflation is much higher than it should be, rising much higher. Prices are still going up. You know, you go grocery shopping, you see what prices are doing. Now, finally, inflation slows down. It's still inflating, but not as fast as it was before. And that's where Biden will say, see what happened? Look what I did for inflation. Hey, Joe, things are still inflating, and they shouldn't be inflating like they are. No, it's not as bad. It's not inflating as fast as it was a couple of years ago, but it's still way up and way out of control, and prices are still a hell of a lot higher since before he took office. So for those who say, well, that's the Biden economy, yes, it is. And there is a way to bring all of this down, and it has nothing to do with the feds coming in and lowering or raising interest rates or whatever they want to do with interest rates. That has nothing to do with it. The same thing you always hear me say, get government out of the way. If we reduce the burden of government and open up more competition, prices go down. There's more jobs available and prices go down. Especially if we can make energy more reliable and affordable, which means quit this push to get everything electrified. Stop that. Let the energy industry produce as much as they can. Let it go. Let the economy go. Reduce a lot of the burdens on the energy industry to produce, well, petroleum products for one, and refine it and send it. And watch those prices drop, which they will quickly. But the more they keep putting a burden on these industries, and it's not just the cost for you, obviously. I mean, I'm Captain Obvious here. Not just for you at the gas pump, but if it costs truckers that much more, then everything's more expensive because we get everything to the store by, trucking it. So, and also by trains too, which These trains are diesel powered. So this just raises the cost of everything. If you want to know one of the reasons that inflation just continues the way it has been, that has a lot to do with energy prices. And those energy prices are so high because of the Biden squeeze on energy. Want to lower those prices? I know the cult of climate change is going to yell and scream, but you're destroying the planet here. Would you like to get prices down to where they're manageable so people can afford things again, which would be a great help to the economy? Well, then release the burden. Get the boot off of the neck of the energy industry and watch how every industry, not just the story I just read mentioned vacationers. It talks about it's summer vacation. People want to go on vacation. They're probably not going to travel as far because they're going on vacation. Gas prices are going to be high. Well, that's certainly true, and vacationers, travelers are a huge part of our economy here in America. But what about the price of absolutely everything else, and not just food, but absolutely everything else which relies on energy? And for that matter, we got to think of energy in the sense of producing electricity, because energy prices keep going up for electricity as government continues to put the squeeze, like here in Wyoming with this ridiculous notion of carbon sequestration, which doesn't do anything to help the planet, but does everything to raise your prices. More wind and solar, which is unreliable intermittent energy, which does nothing but just continue to raise prices and give you less reliable energy. So it's not just your gas price. In general, in energy, and it ripples across the entire economy. The answer to this? Well, if we can get our government, we're not going to do it with this president or this Congress or this bureaucracy, but we can get new people in there and get it all to back off, well, prices will ease and life will be a whole lot better for all of us. Coming up on some local news that we have to take care of right after local news update on your weather forecast. Then you and I get back into it again. 7:45, Don Day joins me because the weekend weather forecast is kind of impactful. And we're going to talk about exactly what that means at 7:45. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Cold.
Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. Make your voice heard at 888-97-WOODS. This is AM 1030 K2 Radio.
7:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. Okay, 888-97-WOODS, the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. Hey, Don Day will be on 7:45. Because as I keep saying this morning, you've been hearing on your local weather forecast and your local station, the storm this weekend will develop into something kind of impactful. Now, where exactly things hit and what exactly that means, Don will do his best to decode all of that at 7:45 when we talk to him live. All right, let's get up to Casper, Wyoming. So there was a problem up there with a proposed gravel pit that originally county commissioners had said they were in favor of. Local residents, because there's some neighborhoods nearby, were saying, yeah, but not here. We live here. We don't want that here. So that caused a ruckus, and a lot of people showed up to these meetings. Judy, who calls the show from time to time, is in the area, and she was one of those who was going to the meetings and raising a bit of a fuss. Here's the latest Cowboy State Daily. Wyoming's top elected officials want to backtrack on an earlier approval of a controversial gravel pit proposed on state-owned land at the base of Casper Mountain, but they're not sure they can. The State Board of Land Commission voted Thursday during a Casper meeting to try to undo leases already granted to the gravel mine's potential operator. But that happening could be like putting toothpaste back into the tube, said the state treasurer, Kurt Meyer. At the same time, Kyle True, manager for Prism Logistics, has had the state leases and wants to explore mining gravel on the land, was frustrated by the 180-degree turn of the land board and called it embarrassing. And the board's debate, along with hours of public comment, was the culmination, says the story, of months of vocal protest by Casper locals about the impact of a gravel mine on public-owned land, what it could bring. About 200 people, which is a lot for that area, showed up so many that they had to spill it over into another room and do a meeting in part by video feed. And when the board got to the gravel mine proposal, the members appear to understand their agenda approval of these leases last year is now showing unintended consequences. So among those, there was a 3-hour dressing down from the public with passionate pleas to reverse the approval, along with input from True and Prism Logistics, that what they're doing and what they can accomplish in a way that satisfies everybody. Because people are not saying don't mine gravel. Obviously, you can do that in Wyoming, of course. It's about where and the impact of where. Once the public comment began, it became apparent it wasn't going to happen Thursday. So Casper Mountain Preservation Alliance joined and called the gravel mining plan a proposed travesty, even used the word abomination in there, and gave examples of old metal recycling businesses on Interstate 25 between Center and Beverly, for those who are familiar with Casper, as an eyesore. Quote, it made an impact and impression on visitors to Casper, had impacts on businesses and development. In the same way, they said visitors to the city who want to relocate, well, there's a gravel mine right in an area where I'm familiar with that area. There are neighborhoods in that area and some brand new businesses, movie theaters, restaurants, things like that, all really brand new. And it's right at the base of Casper Mountain, which provides a really pretty view there. So I'm with everybody else where I personally, you want to go for gravel, I mean, absolutely. Please do business in Wyoming. Maybe that wasn't the best location. From what I'm getting from this story, though, is, so what do you do to backtrack on all of this once they start giving out all sorts of leases and permits and things like that? And now you have the public comment period, and there seems to be a problem. That's where they're saying it's a little difficult to backtrack on this, but let's see what they can do about it. And again, the gravel company, you can imagine how frustrated they are after they've gone through this whole process. And now this happens? Okay, well, it's a wait and see. That's where we are right now with this. All right, 7:41's the time. So Dawn Day's coming up. As I keep saying, the weather for this weekend is going to be impactful. We start Friday, actually not bad.
If it's happening in Wyoming, it's on Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods from K2 Radio. Join the conversation at 888-97-WOODS.
Day weather. All right, Don, stop me when I say something that's wrong. So Friday weather in Wyoming starts off, actually not all that bad. Okay so far? Oh, if Don is there, I don't hear him. Well, he is not connected. Oh, I just suddenly saw Miss Mary's note. Hold on, he's not connected. So I'm standing here talking to myself. I've been using, which I do all day anyway, so that's just fine. I've been using the words impactful for this weather forecast for Dawn Day with day weather, and that's what I want to talk to him about, because it's really a matter of where you are and how that weather forecast comes in. Because there's a low-pressure system, according to what I've seen with Don, that's going to hit up the east of us. And as it does, where exactly it moves through is going to dictate what our weather is like over the course of the weekend. There is going to be some impact, but there's a little bit of this that's up for grabs. Now, I have a story up on the Wake Up Wyoming site that includes what he said, but also the video, which he puts out a video podcast every single day, and that includes that video. Also, as we get into the weekend, he's going to provide some updates. So not only will those updates be on the air, but I'll make sure to post those updates as we get through the weekend, because we start with a Friday that actually doesn't look all that bad. Sent some messages, have to call him, no answer. Okay. So we're trying to get a hold of Don Day right now, and he might be busy. with all of this, because it starts off Friday not all that bad, and then we get into Saturday, and that's when the wind starts picking up. And I don't know where you are going to get some of this wind at some point. And for people down in the Laramie County area especially, you could get winds that gust up to 70 miles an hour at times. So that's going to be some pretty good wind. And then we start to get into the wet. Now, where you are, it just depends. The wet is going to, let's say maybe if you're in Casper, you're right on the edge of it. You could get a whole lot of rain. You could get a whole lot of snow. I'm not sure. And neither is your weather forecast at this point really sure, because that low, as it is in South Dakota and moving up, could move around a little bit. So it could get you deep into the white stuff or maybe not. Same thing all the way up as we head in through the Gillette area as well, all the way up into the northern part of the state. So keep an ear to the radio and keep your Wake Up Wyoming app with you, because this entire system, as we move up through the state on especially Sunday and Monday, is when the most impact happens. And according to Don Day in his forecast, livestock growers out there really should start working today just to make sure, because of this. There's a lot of unpredictability with the system. Frank, you with us?
I'm here. I'm on my way to Cheyenne.
Okay. Why are you heading down to Cheyenne, where I am, by the way?
There's a high school track meet there at Cheyenne East, so I pulled over for a haircut on Barber Road.
Oh, that's perfect over there. Okay. All right. Now, I'm just going to toss this at you. I want you to imagine you walk into a donut shop. With me so far? Okay. You have over there in the discount donut section. Are you going there, or are you going to what you trust?
You know what? I'll take a look at the discount thing. If I can,
okay.
If it makes noise when I pound on it, then you can't eat it.
No, if it's too difficult, if it's too hard, then no. Okay, these are the discount donuts. Now it says, and I'm looking at a donut in the discount donut section, and it says donut with a mystery filling.
No.
See, what I think that means, Frank, is if you have they were putting filling in the donut and somebody forgot what they put in there. It could be jelly.
Yeah.
Could be cream cheese. It could be something really delicious. They just don't remember what they put in there. And the only way for them to really tell is to squeeze it or take a bite, and they're not going to do that.
Or it's something that you absolutely would not eat.
Yeah, now there's possibly, that's a possibility too. So that's what you're afraid of. You wouldn't go for it because you have no idea. It might be something that you don't want. So would you ask then for assurance from the person on the other side of the counter? Would you trust them to tell you whether it's something that you would actually want or not?
Glenn, I have trust issues 24 hours.
Okay. Okay. It is just a regular, what looks like a jelly donut with a nice coated powdered sugar on top. And then they list the calories next to it. This one donut is 330 calories. Now, here's the next question, Frank. Whenever you go, because this is a federal law, they have to put calories by everything you eat these days. Do you ever look at that?
Never.
I would say that anybody who walks into a donut shop to buy donuts, especially a baker's dozen, they never look at the calories.
And why should they? Because you're buying donuts.
Yes, you know what you're getting out of this. This is fattening. I'm going to get donuts. It's not good for me. I'm doing this. Who cares what the calories are? Don't bother telling me the calories are carbs. I want a damn donut.
Yeah, and donuts cover at least 2 of the 4 food groups, doesn't it?
If you say so. It depends on what that mystery filling is.
All righty then.
As long as they didn't put broccoli in there, it's...
Yeah, for asparagus.
That's exactly right. Yeah, we got to get your veggies in there. So this is a broccoli or asparagus-filled donut with sugar on top. Please enjoy that. But it's at a discount price, Frank, so I'd say just go for it with a good cup of coffee. All right, go with sports.
All right, men's college basketball. The transfer portal strikes again for the Wyoming Cowboys. They're going to lose 2 promising young players. 6'9" Cam Manyow, who was a freshman last season, will be leaving Laramie. He averaged 7 points and 6 rebounds per game and had a huge upside. Guard Cale Combs was a freshman last season, played in 27 games for the Pokes in 2023-24. And as a high school senior, he was the player of the year in the Springfield, Missouri area. Transfer portal has changed college athletics to the max. Good for some, bad for others. And the Wyoming Cowboy basketball program just really hasn't benefited from that, and that has just got to change. Also in men's basketball, the Final Four is tomorrow in Glendale, Arizona. Purdue plays North Carolina State, and Connecticut meets Alabama. The women's Final Four starts tonight in Cleveland. What an attractive game coming up tonight at 7 p.m. as Iowa will take on UConn. Iowa faced by their super shooter, Caitlin Clark, and then UConn has Paige Beckers, two of the best women's players in the country meeting up in a Final Four game. That'll be something. The other Final Four game at 5 p.m. tonight will have South Carolina taking on North Carolina State. Wyoming Cowboy football team cruising along with spring practices. They'll have an open practice tomorrow at 11 a.m. at the indoor practice facility. Spring drills continue all month. The annual spring game for the folks will be at Cheyenne East High School on Saturday, April the 27th. In high school track and field, Cheyenne East will have a meet starting at 9:30 this morning. Kelly Walsh and Casper has a track meet this morning, then this afternoon, as well as Rock Springs and Glenrock. In girls high school softball, Wheatland will be at Cheyenne East today. Laramie travels to Gillette to take on Thunder Basin. And Cheyenne South will be up there as well to meet Campbell County. In girls high school soccer today, Star Valley will be at Kelly Walsh at 4 p.m., Thunder Basin at Laramie. Cheyenne East will be at Sheridan, Cheyenne Central at Campbell County, and Jackson will be at Natrona at 6 p.m. for the boys' side. Jackson and Natrona at 4, Campbell County and Cheyenne Central at 6, Laramie and Thunder Basin at 6, Star Valley at Kelly Walsh at 6, and then Sheridan will take on Cheyenne East also at 6 o'clock. That's it in sports. Yeah, I want to beat the weather. Yeah.
Okay, so, good. Yeah, that's exactly what.
Yeah, who knows what tomorrow's going to bring? So
yeah, okay. So,
let's go down there and let's get home.
That's exactly what I'll be doing. So as soon as I get off the air here, I'm just heading right back home, and then wait it out and see what we get out of it. So where's this meet going to be at?
Right at Cheyenne East High School.
Cheyenne East High School. Let me see. Oh, yeah, I know where that is. All right. Yep. Drive careful and get back. Let the wind blow you home. Thank you, Frank.
Yeah,
coming up on some local business that we have to take care of. We're rolling into news time. National, local update on your weather forecast. After that, I am talking with Don Day, trying to negotiate getting him on the air since we missed him at the 7:45. Let's wake up, Wyoming. Six the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. It's a Friday. Glad you rolled on into it. Okay. Want to make sure I have the right people in front of me. Do I have Tyler and Kyle? Are you two in the studio?
Kylie, yeah.
Kylie. Okay, good. Kyle. I don't know why it's Kylie. All right, that makes sense.
It happens a lot, actually.
All right. So I'm going to tell a quick story before I talk to you, everybody, about who you are. Years ago, I was listening to a commercial for one of those monster truck rallies, and you know how they go with the guy screaming, Sunday, Sunday, and it was a radio and television commercial, and it annoyed the hell out of me. I hated those commercials. Then one day, my boss hands me a script and says, this is going to be both on radio and TV. Just have a good time with it. And it was a script for a monster truck rally. And I'm thinking, oh, God. And he said, just have fun. I found out that doing those monster truck commercials are just like the coolest thing ever. I can have so much fun in a studio making all of that noise with all of those sound effects and then watching it on television too. That's great. So you guys, besides my job, probably have the coolest job on earth. Kylie, I want you to think about this. There are people going to real jobs. You get to drive a monster truck with a mohawk on it. I mean, you can't get any cooler than that.
Yeah, I did have a real job for a couple of years before this, but that didn't last very long.
Yeah, they kind of suck, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really, so now you are actually a local. You're from Laramie, right?
Yep.
Okay. How'd you get into this?
I started working on them at a young age, and we kind of just followed Tyler around, actually, and his twin brother, and then they taught us how to work on them, and then I started driving about 3 or 4 years ago.
Okay, that begs the next question. How do you, at a very young age, start working on monster trucks? Because that's not something you just, fall into one day. You just wake up and go, oh, gosh, I want to be a monster truck driver.
Yeah, my mom took my twin sister and I to our first show, and we were like 10 or 11, and we just fell in love with it from there.
Okay. How long have you been doing this? Between driving and everything else?
Well, I've been kind of involved with the sport for like 11, 12 years now.
Okay.
But I've been, driving or actually working for Tyler for 5, 6 years.
Okay. So how's your hearing?
It's not very good.
I kind of figured, because it's loud enough when people are up in the stands, but you're in the truck. Are you wearing hearing protection in there?
Yeah, we do. But even putting the tires on and off is really loud, so you have to wear your headphones while you're doing that too. But
okay, now let's talk about training for just a minute, because you have to do some really good turns without tipping that sucker over, and we got to talk about the jumps and things like that you have to make. How do you train for this?
You don't really get training. Like the first time I drove, they just said, "Oh, you're driving this weekend." And I was like, "Okay." So I ordered my helmet and my fire suit and everything online.
Okay.
Waiting for the 2-day shipping. I was like, oh gosh, is it going to make it here in time?
And you were talking about tipping over. You knew her exactly, because she's rolled the last 2 weekends. So
the first weekend I rolled it over on this tour, it was just going around a turn. So
Well, now, wait a second. Okay, Tyler, there's got to be some advice somebody gives her, right? I mean, you don't just put her in the truck and say, go. Somebody has to show some technique, right?
Technique, or tighten your seatbelts and hold on.
Okay. That's about it.
Sometimes I get a little bit of a lecture before I get in, but
okay.
it's all out of fun.
So where do you get, I know you guys are going to be in Wyoming for this, and we'll talk about exactly where and how people can get tickets, but so where do you tour? I imagine you're all over the country, but it's got to be the kind of communities that just love stuff like this.
Yeah, all over the country. This tour we started in Prescott Valley, Arizona. We've been to Michigan, Texas, Louisiana,
South Dakota. We're
here. We go down to Colorado next weekend. So all over the country. This year we're doing Hawaii, Alaska, anywhere that, people like monster trucks seems to be pretty much everywhere. So there's little kids like us that we're watching monster trucks and love it, and maybe some of those kids will drive someday too.
Okay. What kind of fuel are you burning?
It's methanol alcohol.
Okay, I figured couldn't be, regular low lead. I figured it wouldn't be it.
That's why your eyes and your nose all burn when you come to the shows. You get that up close and personal.
I was loading in the trailer yesterday, I was crying. So.
Okay, where do you get that kind of a fuel from?
Actually, a Dooley Oil, local company, gives us the methanol, and we'll burn, at least probably 55 gallons this weekend. So we go through a lot. But it's just a lot of fun to be this close to home.
Oh, now there's the next thing. So you're back home to local fans. So will you have friends and local fans in the stands watching us?
Oh, yeah. We have friends coming. Our kids' families are all coming. Our mom's coming up this weekend. So normally that means we're going to tear stuff up. Yeah,
and so that means this is the one weekend, Kylie, you do not roll the truck.
We'll see about that.
So we'll see. Okay. So as you go through these competitions, I often look at this and think, okay, they're competitions. They're judged, right? Is that how this works? Because I'm not sure.
Yeah,
There's usually go ahead.
It's a point series, so each event has points, and then at the end of the 3 events that we do in a show, we have an overall winner that gets a trophy, and then the points accrue till the end of the year. So currently, I'm sitting in second, I think about 70 points behind the leader. So really we only have 3 weekends left. So really got to make these count.
since you're going to be here locally, will local fans get a chance to meet you too?
Yeah, well, the pit party, if you go to the Ford dealer from 4 to 6 tonight, they're giving out free pit passes, so that'll save you $15 on buying your tickets. And they can come down, meet us, see the trucks up close, play in the dirt, get whatever signed, our toy trucks, T-shirts, flags, whatever they buy and bring, we'll sign them for them.
How did you come up with this design for a truck? Because I was looking at a picture of this, and I thought, that's a good-looking truck. It looks like it belongs from the Roman Empire if they had trucks back then. And I love the mohawk on the helmet.
Yeah, actually, it's Jerry Beck. He has come up with some pretty cool. They have a new blockhead truck, which looks like a bunch of Legos put together. He has a dump truck, a bulldozer. He just loves thinking outside of the box. So they came up with that idea, and the kids do love the mohawk. We just got to get Kylie to have a mohawk.
No, I told him it needs a pink mohawk now.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, let's get everybody there. So where do they get tickets for the event, and when and where is it?
Do you want that, Hoppo?
Yeah, you can get them at toughestmonstertrucks.com, Ticketmaster, or the Ford Wyoming Center, and you can hit up Fremont Motors and save $15 and get free pit passes, and we'll be out there today from 4 to 6 displaying that awesome Maximus monster truck.
Okay, and then, of course, there's other trucks that will be out there at the same time. How long does the show go for?
It's about 2 hours.
About 2 hours, yeah, okay. Do bring hearing protection. You can go ahead and pick those up at your sporting goods stores. I'm very serious about that. People,
they have them at the merch booth too. So yeah, it is loud inside of these buildings.
Well, there's the
right
thing.
Away.
Because they're doing this inside, this is going to be extra loud in there. And I'm not complaining about this. See, it's not so much, I always, even though I'm in radio, I've always protected my hearing. But I do like the feel of the rumble in my chest when you guys fire it up. That always just feels, I think, incredible.
Yeah, you get 6 monster trucks running, it definitely gets loud inside that building.
So Ford Wyoming Center, get your tickets. Let's give them the date and time and the website address one more time.
So it's going to be Saturday. Pit party is at noon, and then, pit party is at 1 o'clock, and then the show kicks off at 3.
All right. Hey, folks, thanks for coming in. I appreciate your time.
Thanks for having us.
No
Thank
problem.
you for having us.
It's Wake Up Wyoming.
The only show broadcasting from a bunker under Devil's Tower. Hey, it's calm down here. Wake Up Wyoming. Glenn Woods, 6 a.m. weekdays, AM 1030 and FM 95.1.
8:19 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. Pushing everything aside for just a minute because I wanted to make sure to get Don Day on to talk about this weekend's weather because it can be impactful. But Don, from what I saw on your podcast for Cowboy State Daily this morning, you pretty much got this nailed down, but we have some question marks, don't we?
Yeah, we always do. I mean, it's very hard to pinpoint things exactly, especially with the big geography of Wyoming that we deal with. But one thing that we're very certain of is the northeastern counties of the state are, as we mentioned yesterday, are going to get it no matter what. So you talk about places like Gillette and Sundance and Newcastle and Buffalo, Sheridan, and down into KC and Midwest and Buffalo and down into the Douglas, Lusk areas up to Rapid City. That area I just outlined is going to have rain and then snow and heavy snow accumulations, a lot of wind and colder temperatures. We're going to have a wind storm hit the southeast corner of the state. The I-80 corridor, Laramie to Cheyenne, Rollins to Nebraska, down to Denver. Very high winds will be hitting. We're talking 60, 70 miles per hour or more. In between that windstorm to the south and the heavier snow up north, the tricky part of the forecast is kind of what happens in between, and especially Casper. Casper is one of these situations to where if the storm stays a little bit more to the east, Casper is going to get rain and snow. But if it stays to the east, it won't be a lot. If the storm stays a little bit more to the west, Casper could get into the heavier snowfall. And that's something that we're going to keep an eye on overnight tonight into tomorrow morning. Because if the bad weather really sets into that central part of the state, it's going to be tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow night into Sunday morning. So that's kind of the area. The Casper area is this on the razor's edge of this. So is Wheatland. But those other areas I mentioned earlier, you need to be prepared for a winter storm.
Okay, so that's why people who have livestock interest ought to prepare for this right now. And I would guess the same with travel. I'm in Cheyenne right now, but I know as soon as I'm done here, I got to hit the road and head back up to Casper, and I'm going to do that pretty much immediately before that wind kicks in.
Yeah, the good news about today's wind, if you're going north, you're going to have a nice tailwind. The south winds are going to be developing across the state today. So good for you. Going to save a little bit on your gas your gas tab on the way back. But the travel weather really starts to be impacted tomorrow. We are going to see some rain and snow showers developing across the state tonight and tomorrow morning, but it's around midday tomorrow. The wind hits Cheyenne, and it's early morning to mid-morning Saturday when rain and snow starts to break out on those central and eastern plains.
Okay, and then still we're talking about the amount. So whether it's going to be rain or snow, I guess you don't really know about who's going to get a good amount.
Well, what I can't do is I can't get really specific because depending on where you are, the snow amounts are going to really vary. And this, when you get a spring storm, elevation's critical. So, you might be living at 5,200 feet and you might get 6 inches of snow. Somebody a couple miles away that's a few hundred feet lower might get 3 or 4 because the rain snow line is going to be very close to the lower elevations of the state. So amounts are going to vary widely. Elevation's going to play a critical role. And when that rain changes over to snow is really hard. And then it's going to be a wet snow. So giving you inches is kind of I can give you a range, but I could, it'll make you laugh. I could say 1 to 20 inches. But who's going to, that doesn't do you any good.
No, it really doesn't. Can I just ask you real quick, since we're mainly talking about Wyoming, let's head over to South Dakota and Nebraska, because that's where this thing really tears right up through the middle of.
It does. There's going to be severe weather in central Nebraska with severe thunderstorms, and then the Nebraska northern panhandle that extends out to that Lusk area. We call that the Pine Ridge area. That area is really susceptible to a storm like this. And so that's going to get parts of the Black Hills Black Hills, this is probably the biggest snow for the Black Hills this season up into those areas. And that would include the Rapid City area down into Hot Springs, Edgemont, those areas as well.
All right, Don, thanks for coming on. I appreciate you updating on this. Well, I know you're going to be posting your videos during the course of the weekend, right? Is he still there? I guess we lost him. Okay. Don Day, he did mention to me that he will be posting videos on the weekend, which is going to be Saturday and Sunday. He has a YouTube page, just Don Day Day Weather, and you'll see that he has those posted. And, Mary, when he posts those updated forecasts on the weekend, I'll go ahead and follow up with a story on that, too. All right. That's what's happening this weekend, which is a good idea as he said, get travel out of the way, livestock interests. Same thing. Go ahead and take care of that while you can. Today's a good day for it. And Saturday doesn't start too bad, but it just starts to deteriorate from there. So there. Now you have the weather forecast. And I do have everything you just heard along with Don Day's video, which is on the Wake Up Wyoming site. And I know Miss Mary will alert that out at some point. And we will send you as often he sends updates. We'll even have them on air on your local radio stations. All right, back to open phones. 888-97 Woods, the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. Talk about what I'm talking about or change the subject. Fine by me. Oh, Rick in Cheyenne. Monster truck, when you did your ad. Oh, let me go back to that real quick. What Rick is talking about. I just had at the beginning of this hour, I didn't do the ad for this monster truck rally. This was years ago when I was starting out in the radio business, and I was in Florida at the time. And there was a monster truck rally coming to town, and they were doing the commercials for that on radio and television. And every time I heard the commercial, I thought it was the dumbest thing I had ever heard, especially with the low, gravelly voice and all the truck sound effects and explosions and the music in the background. God, this is just stupid. Until I was handed a script and told that, hey, we need you to do this commercial, be as creative as you can, have a good time. It's going to run on both radio and television. Oh, God, I don't. So I locked myself in the studio, and I thought, just have fun with it. Doing monster truck commercials is wow, a lot of fun. Between the voice that I got to do and all the music and sound effects and all that, I had a great time, which changed my opinion of monster truck ads on radio and TV. Whether you like hearing them or not, they're fun to produce, okay? 888-97 Woods, the phone number, 888-97-WOODS. Hey, Colorado. Colorado Senate Democrats have passed a bill barring concealed carry for self-defense in some places. Now, they're not done with this yet. It still has to get through their Senate and get signed by the governor, which could happen because, Colorado. And then it would be challenged in court. Here's the story. In Colorado, Senate Bill 24-131 uses the moniker sensitive places to describe the new areas in which licensed concealed carriers will be allowed to carry guns. Now, here in Wyoming, we were just trying to do the opposite and make more places where people can just carry a gun, whether with or without a permit. That was vetoed by the governor. Local TV station had a senator, Democrat, co-sponsoring, saying, we've aligned this bill with a ruling from the Supreme Court, so now 5 sensitive places are legislative assembly, polling centers, schools, and government buildings and courthouses. You can't carry a gun. Remember, Wyoming was trying to undo that. And it was vetoed by the governor. We almost got that done, but it was vetoed by the governor. Let me see. Colorado Public Radio reported that they were initially many more places Democrats wanted to describe as sensitive and designate as gun-free zones. Gabby Gifford's gun control group was working with the Colorado Senate on this. All right. Coming up on some local news we have to take care of. Then we're going to roll into another weather forecast update by Don Day. 888-97 Woods, the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. You can talk about what I'm talking about. Change the subject. Fine by me. My sister in Florida. Whether you should head to Florida is beautiful down here. We plan to float on a pontoon boat down the St. Johns River. That's what my sister's going to be doing this weekend. I'm going to be hunkered down watching the storm blow over. Let's Wake Up Wyoming.
This show contains sarcasm.
There's some I'm in the
listeners
studios
may find
of KJAB
disturbing. A sense of humor is advised.
And I'm
Chat
up
with
high.
Glenn
I'm on
live on
Capitol
the Wake Up
here,
Wyoming
Street
app.
Avenue with the Capitol building just a couple of blocks up the road. And outside the studio window, I can see I'm on the 3rd floor. I can look down at this building and see AT&T building right across the street. And now every time I look, you ever have something happen that every time you look at it, it changes your view forever of something? Last year, I was here doing the same thing I'm doing now, right? And across the street there, across Capitol, looking at the rear entrance, I believe it's the rear entrance, because it says AT&T employees only on this double glass door. Now, to the left of the double glass door is a little bit of a inlet in the building. I mean, it's not a flat wall. It pushes in a little bit. And so last year at this time, they had some road construction down there. It's early in the morning. The sun hadn't come up yet. And I was looking out, and with some of the construction going on over there from the day before, there was a blue tarp in that little inlet in the building. Just this little, I don't even want to say cave. It's not that deep, but maybe 2 feet deep. And it was a blue tarp over something. And I assumed they had just covered up some construction stuff before they went home, since they had more work to do. As the sun started to rise, that tarp began to move. And this lady pokes her head out from underneath. Oh, someone was sleeping there. That's not covering up construction equipment. That's covering up somebody who needed a place to sleep last night. And she gets up and she's looking around really scared that she's going to be discovered by the authorities or something like that. And so she starts packing up everything real quick, including the tarp. But before she leaves, she starts doing this little dance. And I go, oh, I know this dance. That's the desperate pee-pee dance. And so I quickly turned my head away as she has nowhere else to go but right there on the sidewalk. And then she grabbed everything and just disappeared around the corner. Now, it was a year ago that I saw that, right? To this day, every time I'm in this, it's a very nice studio, and I look across the street at that building, and every time I see that little hole, that little cubby hole there, I have no choice but to think about that lady doing her little pee-pee dance after she came up. It's ruined it from that. We've all had that happen. You've seen it, and you cannot unsee it. Oh, my sister. So if I come to Wyoming and it's hot outside, I'm not required to dress? Good to know. But I'm at an age that no one wants to see that. Yeah, so we're talking, I sent my sister a story that I told her earlier this morning. It's on the Wake Up Wyoming site, and I know Miss Mary will alert it out at some point. I found out from Chugwater, Wyoming, that about a year ago, they had a nudist walk. They call it a streaker, but a streaker is someone who runs through crowds trying to get attention. No, this was a nudist just wandering around town on a very nice spring day. And that is not illegal in Wyoming. I'm serious. That is not illegal. The story is on the Wake Up Wyoming website. All right. 888-97 was the phone number, 888-97-WOODS. Serious topic? Sure, let's go there. Conservatives, we're going to go to Washington, D.C. The House Freedom Caucus secured $900 million in earmarks. Oh, God. See? This is why when I talk about national debt, I blame both parties. Story says members of the Conservative House Freedom Caucus, the Conservative House Freedom Caucus, sponsored more than $900 million worth of earmarks over the last 2 years, according to a study conducted by Open the Books. With the Freedom Caucus, it does not publicly list all members. Open the Books based their study on the lawmakers they do have. The study included data from spending bills that were passed by Congress since January 2023. Earmarks total, 8 Freedom Caucus members, was $447.8 million. The average spent was $56 million, according to the results of the study. Earmarks total for 2024, 22 Freedom Caucus members spent about $508 million. On average, $23.1 million. Total resulting over the study adds up to $957 million. So Open the Books found that these earmarks included Representative Matt Gaetz, Republican in Florida. These are people that you would hope would be working to reduce government spending and the deficit, and even they, according to the findings, the amount, again, from Open the Books, showed the so-called squad $220 million in earmarks over the same period. Now, the squad is a smaller group of people. So the fact that they have fewer earmarks, there's fewer of them. Earmarks are formally referred to as community project funding in the House Congressional District. Earmarks were banned temporarily in Congress in 2011, but the ban was lifted by both Republicans and Democrats in 2021. Oftentimes, as you know, this is the way Congress negotiates. Let's say you're in Congress. You want to get a bill passed. You need to get votes, not just from Republicans, but you even need to get Democrat votes. How do you do that? And you can't convince them to vote for your bill. Well, I tell you what, you vote for my bill, and I'm on such and such a committee. I will make sure that you get, what do you need? What do you want? Well, I could use this project for my district. Fine, I'll get that project put into this bill so it'll get funding, and you can take credit for getting that money into your district. I don't have to remind you what the deficit is right now, do I? No, I didn't think so. So, okay, CEO of Open the Book said in the statement, it's a currency of corruption being abused by both parties in Congress, and he's absolutely right about that. Quote, their spending priorities may look dramatically different, but these findings illustrate that one of Congress's worst-kept secrets when it comes to blowing your tax dollars for future generations especially. There's effectively one party in Washington, D.C., and it's addicted to money. He says, while earmarks nearly $1 billion, these Freedom Caucus members have effectively stood shoulder to shoulder with members of the squad by playing the earmark game. Representative Randy Weber, Republican of Texas, who was removed from the caucus in March, was the top earmark sponsor, $431.9 million. Let's see, there's a Republican from Louisiana, $70 million. Oh, well. Remaining 17 members have opened the books. Well, it talks about all the different members of the squad and so on. Years ago, I'm in Florida, and my congresswoman in Florida had sent out a little flyer why we should vote for her in the upcoming election, re-elect her. And it was a tri-folder brochure. And most of what was in fact, everything that was in it, was how much money she had sent from Washington, D.C. back to our district. In which case, I put that little tri-folder brochure in an envelope and I sent it to her with a note that said, "You just lost my vote. I voted for you to go to Washington, D.C. to end this practice. Not to continue it and brag about it, but to actually end this practice." It's a good thing back when earmarks ended for a short while. But this is Congress. Forget political party on this one. This is Congress. 8:45 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
This program is intended for immature audiences only. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. Weekdays at 6 on air, on Alexa, and 24/7 on the Wake Up Wyoming app.
8:48 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Off we go to talk to Frank Gambino. Frank, where are you at now? Okay, you made pretty good progress there. According to Don Day's forecast, when you drive home later this afternoon, you're going to get great gas mileage.
Great.
Yeah.
You know what I did see on the road, though? A truck full of Cheetos.
Wow. I mean, wait, so this, what is a truck that was delivering Cheetos, or what are we talking about here?
I think so. I think it was a truck full of Cheetos. I saw it.
Okay. I mean, just like bouncing around in the truck or in bags?
Well, I don't know yet because I was too afraid. He was going the other direction, actually.
Okay,
so,
I got you. All right. Hey, I came across something. I have seen this. It's been a while, but I imagine getting a job as a teacher way back when we had one-room schoolhouses all throughout this region of Wyoming, right?
Okay.
When you get the job, they have a list of things you're going to need to do. All right. Sweep the floors at least once a day. Scrub the floors with lye and soap and water, hot water, once a week. Clean the blackboards daily. Okay. Start the fire at 7 a.m. Okay. So warm up the schoolroom by 8 a.m. Yeah. Teachers will not dress in bright colors.
Why?
And I don't know. And dresses may not be more than 2 inches above the ankles.
Well, that's so much for for teacher.
Yeah. I mean, Lord help you if they showed some ankles, right? At least 2 petticoats must be worn, and the petticoats will be dried in pillowcases. I have no idea, Frank, what that means.
No, I don't either. No.
Teachers will not marry or keep company with men during the term of their employment.
Now, why would they prevent that?
I see. You would think they would want them to get married, but okay. All right.
And maybe somebody smart said, you know what, teachers need to be alone.
Yeah, okay, how about this one? Teachers will not get into a carriage or automobile with any man except her brother or father. Teachers will not loiter at ice cream stores.
Okay, that's great. Is this a Catholic school or a public school?
The public school. But these days you can find your teacher at the local bar on Fridays. I mean, come on. All right, go with sports.
Men's college basketball, the transfer portal strikes again for the Wyoming Cowboys. They'll lose 2 promising young players. 6'9" Cam Maniau, who was a freshman last year, will be leaving Laramie. He averaged 7 points and 6 rebounds per game and had a huge upside. Guard Cale Combs was a freshman last season at the guard spot and played 27 games a year ago. And as a high school senior, he was the player of the year in the Springfield, Missouri area. This transfer portal has just changed college athletics to the max for good and for bad. And the Wyoming Cowboy basketball program certainly has lost more than they've gained due to the transfer portal. Also, in men's basketball, the Final Four is set for tomorrow in Glendale, Arizona. Purdue plays North Carolina State. And Connecticut, the defending champions, will meet Alabama. The women's Final Four starts tonight in Cleveland. Iowa plays UConn in a much-anticipated game, especially with Iowa superstar Caitlin Clark and UConn superstar Paige Beckers. This should be really, really a good game. South Carolina will play North Carolina State in the other semifinals, so South Carolina plays at 5, and then Iowa and UConn at 7. Wyoming Cowboy football team's been cruising along with spring practices. They'll have an open practice tomorrow at 11 a.m. at the indoor practice facility in Laramie. And spring drills continue all month, and the annual spring game for the folks will be at Cheyenne East High School on April the 27th. Boys high school soccer today. Jackson will be at Natrona at 4 p.m., Campbell County at Cheyenne Central at 6, Laramie at Thunder Basin at 6, Star Valley at Kelly Walsh at 6, and then Sheridan will be at Cheyenne East at 6 o'clock. On the girls' side, Star Valley will play Kelly Walsh at 4, Thunder Basin at Laramie at 6, East at Sheridan at 6, Central at Campbell County at 6, and then Jackson and Natrona, Jackson at Natrona at 6 o'clock. And in high school track and field, Cheyenne East will have a meet here starting here in about a half an hour. Kelly Walsh starts to meet this morning. Rock Springs will have a big track meet, and so will Glen Rock. And in high school softball for the ladies, Wheatland will be at Cheyenne East today. Laramie travels to Gillette to meet Thunder Basin, and Cheyenne South will be in Gillette as well to take on Campbell County. And that's it in sports.
Teachers are expected to be at home between the hours of 8 p.m. and 6 a.m. unless in attendance of a school function.
Oh, you're not now.
Yeah.
Oh.
See, teachers will not smoke cigarettes or play cards. She will not dye her hair under any circumstances. I wonder, were they able to hire anybody? No, of course not.
You can't smoke in the classroom.
It is understood that teachers will attend church every Sunday and either teach a Sunday class, school, or sing in the choir. Teachers will not leave town at any time without permission of the chairman or school board. I bet you they had the hardest damn time trying to find teachers for this town.
Yeah, who would take a job like that unless the pay was really good?
That's what I would say. You better pay me a lot of money if you're going to go through all of this. I mean, and they don't want her to get married. Well, with all of this, how is she going to meet anyone and get married anyway?
Right.
Okay. Teachers are a whole lot different. The one about not exposing the ankles, when I was in high school, I had a teacher who wore miniskirts.
Did you really? Wow.
I did. Yeah, that was in high school. And, man, we had a hard time focusing.
Not at the high school I went to.
No, all right. Thank you, Frank. And we're coming up on some local business that we have to take care of. And then we're going to roll into news time after that. And then the last hour of the program, which is all open phones. 8:48.
Colder.
I know 6 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It is a Friday. Glad you made it. Keep an eye and an ear on that forecast because today is nice. Friday starts off really nice, although it's getting cloudy. I'm down here in Cheyenne today at our studios in KJB, and it is really getting cloudy out there. The wind picks up later this afternoon. Keep listening to that forecast and keep up to date with us on the Wake Up Wyoming app because as we get into Saturday, Sunday, Monday especially, is when that weather gets really impactful. Now, as far as who gets how much rain or snow or whatever, that's still the outlier in this whole system as to exactly where the biggest impacts happen. It's a bit on the unpredictable side. Don't trust your weather app. I put that in the story this morning on the Wake Up Wyoming website. I notice a lot of people do this. They will grab their weather app and they'll look at it and say, well, it's supposed to do this today. In fact, I've come across, quite often I come across people and have this conversation, but yesterday there was like 3 different people that I talked to about this, and they all rely on that app as if, well, the app says it's going to do this. Your app can often be wrong for a lot of different reasons, especially with a weather system like this. It's a good guide to, if you're wondering what should I do, what does the weather app say, it's a good idea to look at it for a guide. But weather apps are always just predictions, possibilities. This is what might happen. We're pretty confident this will happen. But they're never set in stone that that's exactly the way it's going to be. So whenever you look at your weather app, please look at it and think to yourself, well, it's a good possibility that this is going to happen, but I'll be ready for anything just in case. That's usually the way I look at weather apps, always with a little bit of a, okay. That's the possibility. We'll see what happens. All right, 888-97 Woods, the phone number, 888-97-WOODS. It is open phones. By the way, to one caller earlier, Miss Mary informs me that somebody butt dialed us. And she was tempted to put him on the air. I've talked with butts before on the air. Like, for example, that's why we make fun of Dave from San Francisco. That guy's just a big, enormous butt, and he's really annoying. And so I hang up, that's why I hang up on him. But yeah, we have been butt dialed on occasion. And there have been times when someone actually does butt dial and I can hear the inside of their vehicle. And so I've put them on the air and started talking to them. Until they suddenly realize, oh, he means me. I accidentally dialed him. Again, 888-97 Woods, the phone number. Here's a green alert. Very typical. I tell you stories like this because it's not just important that the nation know, but here in Wyoming, where they want to build more wind and solar farms than ever before, we need to hear these stories and let our elected officials, for one, know. Let's go to New Jersey. Wind projects are going to end up costing ratepayers like billions more. Yeah, here's the author of this story says, I thought I'd just throw this out there in case anyone was thinking about moving to New Jersey. Sooner might be better than later if the governor and his wind industry cronies have their way. Oh, I'm sorry, I read that wrong. Anyone who is thinking of moving out of New Jersey, do it sooner rather than later. Just because when you agree contractually to pay the price for something, prices change, and even if people write a contract, you write a contract, that's supposed to be the agreement, right? So you shouldn't be breaking the contract, right? Well, not when you're dealing with government. Contract, schmontract. Particularly if you're in the offshore wind industry, the author says. What's a piece of paper that you sign with cities and county utilities or the state? What does that mean, that you signed a contract to do it at a certain price? Wind developers can pick up and go home when things financially don't go right for them. And that's exactly what they're doing in many instances. Often they pull out of projects when their threats to public utility boards go unheeded. And pressure for desperate green gift enablers like the New Jersey governor, Phil Murray, are ignored in the face of overwhelming public pressure. That's what's happening. Okay, so a group of coastal New Jersey towns are urging state officials to reject any attempt by offshore wind developers to rebid its power project and increase the cost of electricity. Now, before I read on here, weren't these projects supposed to save us a bunch of money? We were told that the energy created by wind and solar was supposed to be cleaner, greener, affordable, reliable, et cetera, et cetera. It's none of those things. Sustainable. It's none of those things. And the price just keeps going up and the reliability keeps going down. All right, we'll read it on. Across the nation, it says, offshore wind developers have been renegotiating contracts, citing rising costs from supply chain disruptions and all sorts of interest rates, inflation, whatever they can think of, right? Last week, officials from 8 towns, I'm trying to pronounce it in the New Jersey way, Long Beach Township, Beach Haven, Ship Bottom, that's a town. Ship Bottom is a town. And let's see, Banganat Light, I'm pronouncing that wrong, Surf City, Harvey Cedars, Ventura City, all sorts of others like that, sent a letter to the State Board of Public Utilities urging officials to deny any attempt by Atlantic Offshore Wind to rebid its existing contract. Offshore developers, offshore wind and renewable energy certificates, for each megawatt hour of electricity produced through wind turbines, each price in New Jersey is set in an agreement between the State Board of Public Utilities and the wind developer, calculated at base on federal and state tax credits and et cetera, how they come up with the amount, what's this going to cost. So in 2021, Atlantic Shores Offshore Wind was awarded a price tag of $86.62 per megawatt hour 1 year of its 20-year contract. For this year, utilities want a whole lot more than that. They want a massive raise up to like $112.50 per megawatt hour. This is a huge increase. These New Jersey towns are going, whoa, 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 because, I mean, who wants to pay that much of an increase in the utility bill? Despite the rising costs, the story says, of offshore wind energy, the federal government continues to approve power projects. On Tuesday, Biden administration announced the approval of the nation's 8th offshore wind project, Martha's Vineyard. Oh, they're going to hate that in Martha's Vineyard. Oh, you can't do that to those people. You can't put a wind project off of Martha's Vineyard. Why? When Senator Ed Kennedy lived there, no way. No, not in my backyard, NIMBY. No, you can't do that here. The prices just keep going up for things like this. And projects keep getting canceled. And a recent story that I wrote on the Wake Up Wyoming site shows that not just across the nation, but here in Wyoming especially, a lot of these wind and solar projects, but let's just focus on wind for a minute, end up not just costing more than they originally said, and utility prices keep going up, but wind farms and solar farms wear out a lot faster than they originally said. So when they look at a wind turbine, that'll last 25 years, more likely 10. And so if it starts wearing out faster than they expected, what does that do to the overall price over years? It's just going to keep going up. Oh, this is a great idea, isn't it? Yeah, let's keep doing this. 9:15 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
So many opinions, we had to build the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app to hold them all. Free download from AM 1030 K2 Radio.
I'm so happy to be here. Yeah. I'm just happy to be here. Still, I know the world's on fire, the situation's dire. A lot of work and courage gonna be required, but I'm just happy to be here.
Time's 9:21. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Off to the phone we go, where Judy's been waiting by. Morning, Judy.
Hey, good morning, Glenn. We went to the SLIB board meeting yesterday, State Land and Investment. I pulled down their application that the PRISM did, and it reads like an application to work for Wendy's. There's nothing on here that says that you need to do some evaluation of what the land is before you start doing your gravel pit or geologicals. I asked for those. Nobody wants to give up the geologicals. Some of us think that there are something else that they're after. They don't want to use Natrona County zoning because it's got 7 criteria that they'll never meet. Now, here's the funny part. Me and Rose figured this out. 2 years ago, when they applied for this lease on all these areas up there, Natrona County changed its land use plan, the illegal revision. Remember me telling you about it?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And they took out the part that stopped anyone from doing any kind of gravel pits or anything like that up on the mountain. Coincidental? Well, guess who the ones that wanted it out of there? Well, that was Rob Hendry. That was Peter Nicolason. That was Jim Milne. They all voted to adopt that new revision to the land that excluded the part about drilling and doing things up on the mountain. Now, the way I'm looking at this, that's why they want to go by state law on this, because the application looks like a Wendy's application, and they don't have to do any studies of what it's going to do to the property once they start going and digging. They don't have to take any responsibility if a neighbor's house basement caves in or the foundation or anything like that. Well, they didn't get quite what they wanted yesterday. The state offered back after great testimony from all of the citizens that were there. And these guys are experts. They're engineers, and they know about roads and all of that stuff. Well, the state offered back to them, well, why don't you go by, well, actually, Chuck Gray asked, why don't you go by the local zoning? Well, the local zoning has 7 criteria that they'll never meet. Okay, so that's why they didn't do that. But anyway, Chuck asked him, well, what if we asked you to get a conditional use permit for up there? Oh, no, we can't do that. So to me, it looked a little shystery about just the timing on it. And I couldn't get a geological report on just exactly what they're up there drilling. And then nowhere on the application does it ask what you're drilling, looking for. But anyway, so the state offered them to work with the state and stop their leases. And that's where that is. So it's going to go to court. It's going to have to go to court.
Yeah, there's a story this morning. Cowboy State Daily had a story that says just backing out. At this point, they've gone so far in the process. Just to put a stop to it and back out is kind of difficult to do unless they go to court.
Well, yeah, and think about it this way. Okay, they've got invested in it. Where's my paper? $50 for application fee times, what is it, 7 pieces of parcels?
Yeah.
$60 for, $1 per acre. So the only real money that they have invested in this is the geological looking at it, because they didn't do any science. They didn't do what do you call it, to reclamate. Got to reclamate it. And if they don't do it now, how are you going to know what it's supposed to be when you're done?
Right. Okay.
I mean, this is going to go to court. It's going to have to, because there's just too much shady stuff that went on with this, especially since that illegal adoption of the land plan would have stopped them dead in their tracks. So anyway, me and Rose made our points. And
I still wonder, when I look at this, nobody, not even you, no one's opposed to someone going after gravel. I mean, that's good business. Go for it. We have gravel all over the place in Wyoming. Why there?
Yeah, well, that's why I wanted to see the geological report. I have a feeling that's not exactly what they're after.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess we have a long way to go, and this is not something that's going to be resolved by next week. We're going to be at this a while.
Yep. We'll have a good weekend and get home before it snows.
Oh, yeah, I will definitely do that. All right, thank you, Judy. 888-97-WOODS, the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. You can do what she did. She just picked her own topic, and off we rolled on this one. I have to bring this one up. I brought this up early this morning, but I know a lot of people joined during the course of the show. Apparently, there's a new criminal when it comes to CO2 emissions. Dirt. Yeah, Australians are facing a problem as they've done some research and found out that dirt releases CO2. And they're desperately trying to be carbon neutral or achieve those goals in Australia. And so they are trying to figure out what to do about dirt. There's no way they're going to solve the climate crisis. Now, if you think, don't look at your calendar, it's not April 1st. There's no way they're going to solve the climate crisis unless they figure out what to do about CO2 escaping from the soil. Now, if you think about it, carbon is necessary for growing plants in soil, and CO2 is necessary in the air for plants to thrive. So this is a good thing, right? Here's the story. They claim that in the next 80 years, Australian soil will release up to 100 megatons of CO2 into the sky. Oh, I reckon, McPherson says in an article published by The Guardian, a warning: climate will make Australian soil a net emitter of CO2 into the atmosphere. So now, with all the other problems we have, we're going to have to get rid of dirt. Now, I don't know how we're going to get dirt off the planet, because, correct me if I'm wrong, we're kind of made of it. I mean, we're not entirely a dirt planet, but it's a major part of what this planet is, right? And don't we need it for things like growing food? Okay, but if it releases CO2, which plants love, by the way, they inhale it. But okay, if it releases CO2, then okay. Look, I'm reading from an actual story that's coming out of Australia and other news organizations like this. So that's the next part of the climate crisis is how do we get rid of dirt and get dirt to stop releasing CO2? Because obviously CO2 is bad, right? Coming up on some local news, right after local news, update on the weather forecast, which you'll want to pay attention to because it's got that weekend storm in detail with dawn, day, and day weather. Then you and I get back into it again with another segment of Open Phones. 888-97 Woods, the phone number. That's 888-97 WOODS. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Cold.
Now, Glenn Woods fits in your pocket with the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. This is AM 1030, K2 Radio.
9:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. Again, the number's 888-97 Woods, 888-97 WOODS. There's all sorts of people that I talk to off the Wake Up Wyoming app, by the way. App is free to download at your app store. Just go to your app store, Wake Up Wyoming. There it is. And it has a lot of options. One of them, you hit the chat button. You can send me a text message. And I answer back on air, and I type back. You can also send me links, pictures, while I'm on the air. And that helps the conversation across the entire region, not just between you and me. Also, this show becomes a podcast after I'm done. And it's shortened. We get rid of news and weather and a lot of the commercials. And all you have to do when you open up the app is touch on demand, touch Wake Up Wyoming, select your episode. There you go. And you can pause it, share it, rewind it, whatever you want to do. So that way you can catch up on old episodes on your own time. All right, so on that note, Keith is responding to what I just said. If you missed the story, in Australia, they're worried because they found out that dirt releases CO2. And they're trying to reach net zero. And how do they do that if dirt is releasing CO2? I know you know this, but here, I'll explain it anyway, just so we can get it out. All right? See, plants, which are important to life, without the plants, we're done, right? All right. Plants need soil if they're growing on land, right? They need soil, and then they have to have water. There needs to be carbon in the soil. That's necessary. Be CO2 in the air, or they're not growing anywhere. These are some of the necessary ingredients. So when they worry about CO2 is being released by the ground, what do? Encourage more of it, actually, if you want. All right, so here's Keith and Cheyenne. I will gladly allow the CO2 freaks to save the planet by coming to my house and planting hundreds of those green CO2 eaters that sway in the wind. I'm sure that this method is cheaper and greener than anything they are doing now, even with the sprinklers I'll need. And for that matter, for those who want, like Governor Gordon and others who want these plants that are not plants. I mean, basically they want to set up these huge facilities that will suck CO2 out of the air and then try to sequester it. Just plant trees. There. That's all you really have to do. Just go ahead, just plant trees. It's just the way nature works. We've got to get these people out of the notion. I know it's been drilled into them since they were little kids. We've got to stop them, get them out of the notion that CO2 is a pollutant. Okay, it is necessary. It's life-giving. If anything, we could use more of it in the atmosphere. But they're treating it not just as a pollutant, but as a toxin at this point. I mean, they have this idea that it's toxic and killing our planet and causing a crisis. It's necessary for life. It's the opposite of that. All right, let me get out of that story real quick. I got something completely out of left field for you. Oh, Nancy was on the phone, but I think we lost her during the break. Okay. Well, Nancy, if you want to try back real quick, 888-97 Woods. I love Nancy's voice, Miss Mary. I love Nancy's voice. Probably one of the coolest voices we have on here. Completely out of left field. German police patrol without pants to protest uniform shortage. Don't worry, they're still wearing underwear. Yeah, the story. The story says German police are facing a serious shortage of uniforms over the war. The war in Ukraine is blamed. And officers protesting inaction from the top have gone trouserless to make the point. The Bavarian branch, I cannot even pronounce this. Here's a word that has like a dozen letters, but it's German, so. Is protesting a long-term supply issue for their members' officers by letting them walk around on patrol in uniforms that basically they're wearing black underwear along with their black shirts. Okay, they're just trying to make a point. There's some pictures of them here. If as long as you have the legs for it, I'd say go ahead and go for it. I have to admire people who make their points in ways like this. It's just some of the stories that I tried to get to early this morning but didn't have a chance to. Well, because it's been a really busy morning and there's there's more stories than I could possibly get to during the course of the morning. All right, just real quick, do keep in mind, right now the weather's actually not bad in Wyoming. It's starting off pretty good this Friday. It starts to go downhill. Saturday gets really windy for a lot of you, especially those of you in Laramie County around Cheyenne and so on. And the interstates will be heavily impacted by a lot of wind. Keep that in mind. By the time we get into Friday afternoon and Friday night, it gets more impactful. Sunday and Monday are going to suck for some people. How exactly it hits us depends on where the low-pressure system moves across South Dakota. Just know that you're going to have impacts. A lot of you are going to get wet. Rain or snow just depends on how the low moves across South Dakota. If it's closer to Wyoming, it's going to be more white. If it's more to the east, it's just going to be more wet. Either way, a lot of wind, and you're not going to escape that wind. We will keep you up to date on the local radio stations and on the Wake Up Wyoming app. Also, the app for your local radio stations will have local weather, too, so we'll keep you up to date. 9:42, Wake Up Wyoming.
Local and mobile across Wyoming and beyond with the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. This is AM 1030 K2 Radio.
Up on 9:48, it's Wake Up Wyoming. Frank, you there? Oh, he's out there somewhere.
I'm in Cheyenne, Wyoming.
Okay, you made it. Oh, good. Okay. How long is this event going to happen that you're
I'll
at?
probably try to hit the road back back to Casper, maybe about 2 this afternoon, maybe a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
We'll see.
That'll be just about perfect. A friend of mine who's also in Cheyenne at a hotel right now just posted on his social media that he actually saw someone who's about to travel. I mean, they're getting into the car. And, Frank, they were using a paper map.
A what?
Yeah, okay. They used to have these maps. I know you probably used them that had everything on it.
Actually, I prefer them, but
yeah?
they weren't so big.
There's the thing. And how do you drive down the road looking at that? And I tell you what I used to do. I don't have any problem reading things forwards or backwards. So before the days of GPS with that little screen, I would unfold the map to where I was going, and I would put it up on the dash. So the sunlight would reflect the map onto my windshield.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. Now, I would have to read it backwards because it's a reverse reflection. But I don't have a problem doing that. And so I would drive down the road with the map reflecting on my windshield so I could see where I was going all the way down. Then they put this handy-dandy little computer screen in there, and now I can look at that, but now I have to look away. But you know, Frank, you can get a device for your phone or tablet which is like a head-up display that fighter pilots use. It will reflect your phone up on your windshield in such a way that you can read your map while you're driving on your windshield.
Those maps that sometimes are on your phone, I think I get confused of what's north, east, and south.
Yes.
You know, because it's not exactly like reading a map there. The north is always on top.
Right.
I get confused on that badly sometimes.
Well, now, there is something you can do. You should be able to set it. Either do you want it to always point north, or do you want it pointing in the direction that you're going?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can go ahead and reset that option over there to decide which way. Play around with the options next time you open that up. Because I kind of like to point it to the direction I'm currently driving. But it just depends on how your brain works. But now let's go back to, so there's this guy using a paper map. Wow. They're not obsolete. I can still see them for sale from time to time. It's just they're not. I used to buy the big Rand McNally book maps.
Well, yeah, didn't you have like a Rand McNally Atlas that had maps of all the states?
Oh, yeah, but also I could buy in fact, you used to be able to call AAA if you were going to go on a trip and explain to them where you were going to go, and they would send you a notebook that is a binder where you flip the pages over the top, and it had your trip broken down into sections, and they would if you were a AAA member, they would make it just for you. So you could drive down the highway just flipping the next page on this. It's like a rectangular map, but the page is flipped up and over. So you just flip to the next section as you went.
That's cool.
But they don't do that anymore.
I would take that, yeah.
Yeah. No, now just get on your cell phone, Frank. Go with sports.
All right. Men's college basketball and the transfer portal strikes again for the Wyoming Cowboys. They're going to lose two promising young players. 6'9" Cam Manyow was a freshman last season, leaving Laramie. He averaged 7 points and 6 rebounds a game, and he had a huge upside. Guard Cale Combs was a freshman last season, playing in 27 games and in 2023-24. As a high school senior, he was the player of the year in the Springfield, Missouri area. Transfer portal has changed college athletics to the max, and for good and for bad. And the Wyoming basketball program certainly really has not benefited from all that much, and that's got to change. In men's basketball for the Final Four, that's tomorrow in Glendale, Arizona. Purdue, a number 1 seed, will play North Carolina. And Connecticut, the defending champion, and another number 1 seed, meets Alabama. The women's Final Four starts tonight in Cleveland. Iowa plays Connecticut in a much-anticipated game with two superstars in that game. Iowa's star Caitlin Clark, who can shoot from just about anywhere, and UConn's Paige Beckers. That will begin at 7 p.m. on Mountain Time. And at 5 o'clock, it'll be South Carolina playing North Carolina State in the other national semifinal for the ladies. Wyoming Cowboy football team cruising along with spring practices, and they'll have an open practice tomorrow at 11 a.m. at the indoor practice facility in Laramie. Spring drills continue all month. The annual spring game for the folks will be at Cheyenne East High School on Saturday, April the 27th. High school track and field, Cheyenne East hosting a meet that is underway as we speak. Kelly Walsh's meet will start here in a few minutes. Rock Springs also with a meet this morning and this afternoon, and the same thing for Glen Rock. In girls high school soccer, Star Valley will be at Kelly Walsh today, Thunder Basin at Laramie, East will be at Sheridan, Cheyenne Central at Campbell County, and Jackson will be at Natrona. On the boys' side, the Jackson and Natrona at 4 p.m., Campbell County at Central, Laramie at Thunder Basin, Star Valley, Kelly Walsh, and Sheridan will be at Cheyenne East. And in girls softball, Wheatland will be in Cheyenne to take on East, Laramie on the road, and Gillette to take on Thunder Basin, then Cheyenne South on the road to meet Campbell County. And that is it in sports.
Most of the sports events are this weekend, aren't they? Just like Friday, Saturday, because this storm mainly hits us mainly on Sunday, Monday.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, most of the time, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So I think we'll get in, most of the events. We'll see what happens tomorrow. In some areas, a lot of teams. It's not just having the event, Glenn. I mean, but these schools, especially at the high school level, have got to get from point A to point B.
Yeah.
And, it's like, why are we playing a game knowing that if we stay and play the game, that we're going to be driving in a huge snowstorm probably for 5 hours? They're not going to do that anymore. They're
that's why both you and I are heading back home as soon as we possibly can, because it's lovely here right now, but we don't want to be stuck here till Tuesday.
No.